Good evening, everyone. I'm going to turn things over to Judy Meyer. Oh, Judy, you're muted.
That happens at least twice a day. I'm sorry about that. We're off to a slow start. I'm Judy Meyer. I'm the editor of the Sun Journal, and I welcome you to tonight's event to access our history through the archives of the Sun Journal. This event and the important local journalism we produce every day is made possible by our advertisers and you, our readers. Now's the perfect time to give the gift of knowledge, insight, and crossword puzzles with a gift subscription to the Sun Journal for the holidays. With our print and digital options, I'm sure you'll find the perfect option for your friends, your family, or just for yourself. You'll find a link with details in the chat or at sunjournal.com/gift. And we are here tonight with the Sun Journal's resident historian and State House reporter, Steve Collins. A journalist since 1987, Steve has worked for daily newspapers in New York, Connecticut, and Maine. He has served as the State House reporter for the Sun Journal since 2016. Among his awards are the Society of Professional Journalists 2016 Ethics in Journalism Award and the I.F. Stone Whistleblower Award in 2015. In October this year, he was named the Maine Press Association's Journalist of the Year. And just this afternoon, he was awarded the Bob Wallach Community Journalism Award from the New England Newspaper and Press Association, an award given to the best of the best local journalists in New England. Steve is a founder and board president of Youth Journalism International, a charity and nonprofit that teaches students around the world about news writing, media literacy, and issues of the day. His wife, Jackie, serves as its executive director. Born in Massachusetts, Steve grew up in a military family that took him to Norway, Ohio, Virginia, where he earned a degree in history from the University of Virginia. And he came to us as a reporter, but he truly is a historian, and he is the very best person I know who can walk us through newspapers.com. This is a platform that has that contains all of our newspapers from all time and is included with everybody's subscription. So you can move from the current events of the day to, history from 150 years ago, all on the same screen. So Steve, I'm going to turn this over to you to walk us through the search and find.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. I think that the archives that we have at the as a bonus for subscribers to the Sun Journal is one of the really great opportunities that I've ever seen in journalism. I mean, when I started trying to find out what happened last year was really hard, and now we can find out relatively quickly what happened on almost any issue at any time. It's just an unbelievable change over time, and it's a gift to everybody. And of course it helps me, because if I'm writing about any kind of issue, it's great to know the background of it. But it's also really good for you, because everybody has times where you want to know something that happened in the past, whether it's you're trying to learn about your grandmother who ran for city council, or you're trying to track down a story you heard about a murder years ago, or you want to just find your birth announcement that was in the paper. I mean, there's so many things that affects all kinds of people. It's a tremendous tool for genealogists. It's really just an incredible thing. So let me tell you what we have. The archives that are on newspapers.com, which every single one of our subscribers now has access to, go back. Well, for the Sun Journal, they go back now to 1861, I think. But we also have other papers that are in our family of papers that you also have access to, like the Portland Press Herald and the Kennebec Journal and a lot of the predecessor papers. So many of the papers actually go back even further. And you never know where something appeared in print. And the thing that has really changed is that because all of these things have been digitalized and put online in really high quality PDFs, it is now possible to search them. And that is something that is so new and incredible. For the Sun Journal itself, I figured out one day that we have now at least 2 million pages of past issues of the Sun Journal, the Lewiston Evening Journal, the Lewiston Daily Sun, the Lewiston Falls Journal, and a couple of other various names that went under at some point. That's 2 million pages of the history of this community, of the people who lived here, of our families, our neighborhoods. It'll tell you everything. The newspaper, as you know, even today, it doesn't cover everything. It does, but it covers an awful lot, and it's just an amazing amount of stuff. And you can find it, and that's what's so new is that, you know, we used to have years ago up on the top floor of the building we just moved out of on Park Street, bound copies of all of these back issues. And so there would have been I never saw this myself, but there would have been a whole wall of great big newspaper sized bound volumes for like, you know, all the papers for say October of 1887. And it's great, it's there, it's preserved, but you wouldn't know what's in it. The only way to know would be to sit down with this giant book and leaf through it page by page by page. Trying to find anything in particular would have been almost impossible unless you knew when it would have happened. So if you had a date, you could find something. But if you didn't have a date, you really couldn't find it. And so that ability to search, and that's what changed the whole ballgame. And so now, you know, if you were looking for your grandmother who's was a city council candidate, you don't know what year, you don't know, the only thing you really know is the name. But now you can search that name, and you could put in some vague years of when it might have been, like 1920 to 1940. And the chances are pretty good you're going to find at least something, and maybe quite a lot. And that's it's really a great tool. So I'm going to try and show you some of that and how you do it, and some of the things you can do to keep and keep track of the stuff that you find. So to do that, I'm going to share my screen first, and hopefully I will not mess that up. Let's see, share screen. I think I put this one. No, this one. Right. No, that didn't work. Hold on. Okay, that will do it. So I'm going to go to the Sun Journalist's website, which is where you would start. Okay, so you're calling up our website. You know, everybody's going to look just about the same. And on the website, if you look at it here, there is a thing right under our logo. You see it has a little bit of weather news and the today's e-paper, and then newspaper archives. All you have to do is click on newspaper archives, and boom, you're right into this. Now, the only trick here is that you want to be logged in, and if you are not logged in, you're going to see a little different than you would be if you are logged in. So, and the reason you have to be logged in is so we know you're a subscriber, because anybody can go to our website and click on something. But if you are a subscriber, then you get access. So if you are a subscriber and you are not logged in, that's something you need to learn how to do. I'm not going to talk about it today, but learn how to log in, and that's how you can read the e-paper. That's how you can get to the archives, and that's how you can make sure you can read stuff online. It's part of the subscription, and some people only have a digital subscription. But if you have any kind of subscription, you can do this. So when you click on that front page, so let's go back to it for a second. So if you click on newspaper archives, it's going to take you to this page. And then you're going to have this option here to read the archives. So you click on it. And boom, you are suddenly at newspapers.com. And this section of it has all of the papers that you can access through your subscription. So if you look over here, I think if I click on papers in the upper left corner, it will tell you which papers you can see. So these are all papers that are in our family of newspapers that you have access to. So you have everything from the Biddeford Saco Journal to whatever Maine Say was back in 1989 in Waterville, to the Maine Sunday Telegram, to the Portland Press Herald, and you can even see how many pages there are for each thing. So like the Lewiston Daily Sun, there's 580,000 pages. It's a lot of stuff. And the thing that you want to be able to do with that is to, I'm going to go back to I think it's archive home here. Yeah, okay, so this is back to the page you would initially get to. And you'll see that it takes you to the Sun Journal. You could go to one of the other papers instead if you wanted to, but you don't really need to, because it won't really matter. They're all searching the same thing. So this is the search bar, and right underneath there, it has keyword, it has date, it has location. You don't have to put in a date, you don't have to put in a location. But the keyword is the thing that it's going to search on, and so that's really important. That's how you're going to find whatever it is you want to look for. And I think the easiest way to explain that is just to search for something. So I'm going to turn on one that I actually just stumbled across a couple of months ago. I was looking up stuff about some of the candidates for public office, and I decided, hey, I'm going to see what appeared in the newspaper about Jared Golden before Jared Golden was like, a big shot politician. So to do that, I'm going to put under the keyword, I've got to put Jared Golden. Now, Jared Golden is a good name because there's not likely to be multiple Jared Goldens. I mean, there might be another one or two around, but there's not going to be 100 of them. So it's a little harder if you're trying to find somebody like, Susan Smith or something. But Jared Golden is likely, if something comes up, it's likely to be him. But one of the tricks you want to do is if you put quote marks around it, you're going to only get the phrase Jared Golden. If I don't put quote marks around it, I can get anything that has both Jared and Golden in it. So I might find a story about, Jared Smith, who discovered gold in California, because the search engine doesn't know much of anything, really. It's just searching for something that looks similar to what you've asked for. But I want to find Jared Golden. So I'm just going to start by just searching by searching it for Jared Golden. And it comes back with a whole bunch of stuff. It thinks for some reason, the thing I'd be most apt to want to see is a letter to the editor somebody wrote about Jared Golden back in 2018. That isn't very interesting to me. And especially right now, as I want to see if I can find stuff that appeared about Jared Golden when he was young. So if you go up here back up to the top, you have ways here to sort things. So under the date part here, there's a little button that says sort. And I'm going to sort this so that I am getting the oldest paper that mentions Jared Golden first. And lo and behold, if I do that, I find there was something that mentioned Jared Golden on April 9th of 1988. So yeah, that's what I want to see. I mean, Jared Golden in 1988, he was a kid. So I click on that, and what I get is a page in the paper. On one side is a little story about the legislature up in Augusta, and over on the side is a picture of a little boy in a bubble, and it's some kind of science activity day at Edward Little High School, and apparently Jared's mother, father, somebody brought him to maybe the school brought him to the science fair. He's 5 years old, and they're showing how I think this other kid is pulling up a bubble around him. So Jared's standing in a bubble, and one of our photographers was there taking pictures and caught a picture that he liked. And so he got this picture of Jared Golden in a bubble. So I really love this. When I first found it, I made a copy of it. I posted it online. And, you know, what I later heard from Jared Golden, who had no memory of this picture and couldn't believe that I'd found such a thing about him. So when you find something like this, if it's something that you can look at it, you can go, wow, that's cool, and then move on to whatever you want. But if you want to, you can also save it. So we're going to, a little later, I'll show you how to save that if you want to, and you'll end up with a way that you can keep it without having to go back and find it again. Let's see. So I'm going to go back to the search thing. And I thought I'd try and find something that I think exists. But I haven't been as clear about it. So I understand that the mayor of Auburn, Jason Levesque, when he was in high school, he wrote a column that appeared in the student page of the Sun Journal, and it was a column about what it was like to be a senior at Edward Little High School. That's probably something that would be funny, and so I want to see it. So to find something like that, I have to figure out how am I going to find that story, because if I look, so Jason Levesque, I put in his name, that's clearly going to be there, but I know that there's a whole bunch of stories about Jason Levesque. I'm not really sure what year he graduated from high school. But let's just say I'm going to guess that it was somewhere between 1990 and 1995. I think that's probably right. And I searched for that. And let's see. So something from 1990. Oh, I'm sorting it. I don't want to. Right now, at the best match. Let's see. 1993, and so over here I'm seeing blah blah blah. Somebody named Jason Levesque in Poland won a bicycle. I don't know if that was him. I don't think he was in Poland, but he could have won the bicycle in Poland. Somebody named Jason Levesque did well at looks like a basketball game in Waterville. I don't know if Jason played basketball or not. I'm not. Here's the one I want. Senioritis, Jason Levesque, Edward Little High School, 1992. So here he is. He's writing in this column in the Sun Journal about what it was like, how senioritis is epidemic at Edward Little High School. Let's see. Senioritis, it's like, if I'd known earlier how great being a slacker in the true sense of the word was, I would have gotten senioritis my freshman year. After 4 years of sweating out school, let's blow it all out in the next 3 months. Well, go out in style and make 1992 the year of the senior. So that's kind of funny. And it's something that, before newspapers.com, and the Sun Journal being unavailable there, you'd never find this thing. I mean, how would you ever find an old thing like this? You just couldn't. Absolutely impossible. So those kind of things are really fun. From a family perspective, a lot of people out there are using old newspapers for genealogy. Genealogy is really popular, and most of us have at least some curiosity about, parents, grandparents, great grandparents. I know that I personally use newspapers.com to find out all kinds of things about people who were in my large extended family in years past, and I found out all sorts of interesting stories, and some of them were things that nobody remembered at all. Sometimes for good reason, and sometimes it just was something that was forgotten. But it's a really cool tool. So I think probably I should show you how to what to do with what you find. I mean, and if people have questions or something, we can come back to ways to search. Because one of the things about searching is that even with this great tool, it doesn't find everything. It's a computer, it's looking at a digital file. It doesn't necessarily read every word correctly, especially if you look at really old newspapers. Sometimes the images are just not that clear. It's kind of amazing how good it is, but it is never going to find everything, because even when you're staring at it with your own eyeballs in as large a print as you can make it, it's hard to tell what it says sometimes. Let me just quickly look at the chat here and see if there's anything I should say. Okay, so let's see about quipping something. So let's just think of something that I don't know, kind of looked at. Say, let's see what the paper looked like on, say, Pearl Harbor Day, the real Pearl Harbor Day, which I don't really know anything. Like, when did that? So Pearl Harbor is what I want to search for. I know that I want to look here in December, probably. Well, let's see if there's anything on December 7th, 1941. And we'll search for that. And I'm going to search again. I'm going to make it go to the oldest. Well, let's change it to 1941. But I'm going to go back to the oldest in 1941, which I guess it got mentioned a lot more than I thought it would. So I'm going to change it here to be, oops, I don't want to see that. I want to go, I'm going to make it just Lewiston. So this is a place where you can put in the location. So I want to put in only to see the Sun Journal. So if I put in the location as Lewiston, Maine, I'm going to get the Lewiston Daily Sun and the Lewiston Evening Journal, because there were two daily papers at the time. And I'm going to, I think that I can look it up for December, just December 1941. Yeah, okay. So in December of 1941, and now I've already got it set to look at the oldest one first. So on the 1st of that month, I see Mrs. King's husband was employed at Pearl Harbor. That looks like it was in an ad. Let's see, December the 4th, and then we get to December the 8th. That's what we want to see. So Monday, December the 8th, here's the Sun Journal. Now here is a good example. So the search thing came back with a mention of it. The top thing was on Monday, December the 8th, on page 9. Well, I know newspapers have always done things a little differently, but I am quite sure that if I go to page 1, I'm going to find something about Pearl Harbor. This is just the jump of a story, but the search thing did not find it. So down here, I can go back and look at different pages. It tells me at the bottom that I'm looking at page 9. If I go over here, I can click back to page 8, page 7. page 6. Comics, always worth stopping and looking at a few of the comics from years past. Page 5, page 4, it's found Pearl Harbor again. Page 3, page 2, and then we're on the front page. And here would be whatever. Let's see what they had here. I'm having a hard time seeing it. Okay. So here we go. America declares we are at war, and Japan claims naval supremacy. There's Oklahoma on fire. List of people from central Maine who are in the war zone. Lewiston's vital services are going to be placed under guard, so that's good. The Japanese won't be attacking our water pumping station anytime soon. And if they do, they're in trouble. Now, let's suppose I just want to save part of this. And why am I not seeing the... I'm seeing this at a size that I'm not used to. Okay, that's just covered up by this thing. Okay, that's better. All right, America declares war. And so if I want to, well, let's say I want to save this page. I just want to see I want to save the entire page because that's a pretty cool page. It's you know, a big day, the beginning of World War II for us. So there's different ways I can do that. And one of them is to go over here and just print and download it. And I could just go over here, hit print and download, and over here I can take the entire page. I click on that. I can save it as a JPEG, which is a picture file. And if I click on that, I'm going to download, it'll just download a picture of the whole front page. So that's kind of cool. But there's another way to do this, and that would be to hit clip. And clip brings this thing, this little tool up. And then you can make it clip whatever you want to. So let's just suppose I only want to clip, you know, the top of this page. I don't need the whole page. I just want that big bold America declares war and a little sense of what's happening. So I can clip this thing like that. And then over here, I can say what it is. So it's just you know, America declares war. So this means I'm naming a file. Oops, helps to spell right. It's getting late for me. Declares war. I could add tags like, you know, World War II if I wanted to. And then I can just save the clipping. Right here, there's a little button to save it. And if I hit save clipping, it will save it as a file in my account here. I also have the option of saving it to Ancestry. So if you have an Ancestry.com account, which a lot of people who do genealogy do, you can save it to your Ancestry account by linking those two things. I'm not going to do that here, but it's not that hard to do, and it's a way to just save everything. So if you were looking, that's especially useful if you were, you know, you're trying to save things like obituaries of people in your family, marriage announcements, anything that is typically, you know, stuff that helps preserve family history. That's what you did. That's the place you'd save it. But you can also save it on your own. You can so once you have a clip, let me just show you the clip. So I'm going to just leave this whole page here and go back to the beginning. On this page, so I'm back to the first page of my search. I have an option up here where I can search, I can browse, I can look at clippings. So this is my clippings. So if I clip on clippings, this is everybody's clippings. This is my clippings. don't remember clipping so much, but okay, good for me. And I think it's looking at different things. So anyway, here's the America Declares War clipping. I have it right here. I can call it up anytime I want to. It comes up looking like this. Although it actually is a much bigger file than it looks. And from that point, I can save it to Ancestry. I can also just download it as a picture. So if, let's suppose I wanted to post this on social media or Facebook or something, I can just download it, or I can share it right here. So if I wanted to put this on my Pinterest account or my Facebook account or whatever, it's easy to do. It's all sorts of different options. And that's different ways to save it, which is pretty cool. I tend to be the sort of person who keeps everything online. You can see there's all sorts of stuff here. I mean, if you something I found well, actually, I shouldn't give away some of that. And so we come back here to the Sun Journals thing. I can look at anything I want to. The thing that is so great about this is that you can really find almost anything. You want to find out when the sewer line was extended to your area of Auburn, there's stories about it. You want to know, I don't know. Well, the other day I was looking up, I know there used to be a fountain over in Kennedy Park, and I was just curious about whatever happened to it. And so I looked up the fountain in Kennedy Park, and I found all sorts of stories about, over the years about, I learned why it's not there, but I also learned all kinds of stories about the time when it was there and how they had to fix it because of this or just all sorts of things. I'm still searching for the story that tells me who put it there to begin with and what it was, but I'll get there. So it's not like if you have an idea, you can immediately find everything, because that just isn't how it is. But you can find a lot of stuff. It's just this unfolding mystery, and you can do so much stuff. I love to just go back and pick a date, and so you don't have to have any particular goal. If I want to, I can go back up here to the corner up here, and I just browse on a paper. I pick any one of the papers we have, but let's just say I want to look at one of the really old papers. So I'm going to look at the Lewiston Falls Journal. That was before the Evening Journal. It's 1862 and 1863. I'm going to look at 1863. So it doesn't have everything late after that. So I suspect that after April, it changed the name to the Lewiston Evening Journal, or the Lewiston Daily Journal, if they have it that way. But in any case, these are my choices. I'm going to look and see what happened in April of 1863. It was I'm not sure why it's coming up only Thursdays, but that's interesting. It was a daily at that point. And I'll look at April 9th. It's a 4-page paper. And you know what I think it is? I think the Lewiston Falls Journal must have continued as a weekly for a little while, a year or two, after the Lewiston Evening Journal started publishing as a daily, but they probably kept this weekly going as well, which I didn't know until just now. And it has all kinds of stories about stuff. So, some of it is, I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. Looking at the old ads is always interesting. You see what people were selling. That tells you a lot about what people were buying. So here's a hardware store that was located in the Journal block on Lisbon Street near Main Street. So that's an old location of ours, and they're selling everything from hammers and tacks to shovels and hoes and forks and grindstones and zinc. H.G. Garcelon's place near the bridge on Main Street was selling whips and bells and blankets and trunks and harnesses. Um, it's a different world. They're selling stuff for horses because that's what people had if they were lucky. Um, Here's somebody who has a new fancy dye house to dye cloth and wool, and that's a front page ad, so that's a big deal. I mean, you can't find a dye house today. That doesn't really exist. You can buy dyes, but people don't really do that much anymore. Things change, and it's always interesting to just sort of run through it. I have found a lot of stories in the last few years just by looking at old papers, and you sort of find stuff that at one time everybody cared about, but nobody today remembers it at all. I just finished writing a 29-part story on the mystery of the headless skeleton, which was the first murder that we know about in Lewiston in 1870, and they found a skeleton without a head, without a skull, I guess would be more fair, in 1873. So that sort of unleashed this long saga about who was this person and what happened to them. And in the end, we pretty much know what happened to her. It was a woman who was killed, and her husband was arrested and spent a long time in prison. And you can read about it in excruciating detail if you go online and look at that. But I had fun, and I was able to do that in large part because newspapers.com provided a way to find out an endless amount. I mean, so many stories. I mean, but there's still a lot of stuff I don't know, and it might well still exist in some newspaper. But so it's all really interesting to me, and I guess I wonder if anybody has anything particular they'd like me to look for or to talk about in more detail, because I'm happy to do that. I'm really excited about this feature. I think that it will help people understand their community and the past so much more, and I think that's just an incredible opportunity, because we cannot possibly know where we are today without understanding how we got here. And newspapers, the availability of newspapers, this newfound option, is a way to learn about almost any issue, any subject, right down to your local level. I mean, history books don't really write about what happened in Auburn or Lewiston. I mean, except in a sort of broad way. But everything, so it's interesting, even things that you can learn about, on a national level, like the advent of the railroads, or how automobiles came into existence, or airfields, or all of that stuff happened here too. And you can see, it's one thing to know that automobiles displaced horses, but it's another thing to be able to look and see how it actually happened day by day by day. And you can find a story about the first automobile that was running on the streets of Auburn and Lewiston. I just looked at that a few weeks ago. And it's and there's almost anything you can think of. The first telephone. You get a sense of how people used to live in a way that you just can't in any other way, because it's there in such detail all the time. And you also see what people just took for granted. I mean, you read about stuff that presume the way they write it lets you know that everyone knew this thing. But when I read it, I don't even know what they're talking about. So it takes some research sometimes to even comprehend some of the things in the past. In this issue I brought up here, there's all sorts of stories about the Civil War, which of course was the big thing in 1863. Stories about local people. I mean, it's things that are happening. In the Civil War, there were frequently letters to the Lewiston paper from the soldiers and commanders of main units talking about where they were and what they were doing, because people here really wanted to know. That's why this paper became a daily paper all those years ago, is they really want to know. They really wanted to know what was happening, because there are people they cared about were down fighting and dying. Okay, so I'm just staring at this for a second. So here's something some editor wrote in April of 1863. We live in wicked times. An infernal machine has been picked up on the floor of the Auburn Hall. Doubt was placed there last evening, at which time and place there was a dancing assembly. It was an ingenious, sharp-pointed instrument, and the design must have been to impale the fantastic big or little toe of some fair waltzer or poker. Who was the concoctor of this devilish scheme? The name of so totally hardened a miscreant should be nailed to perpetual infamy. Well, I really don't know exactly what they're talking about, but that sounds like a pretty interesting little tale. The past is just an endless parade of stories, and these papers were really good at telling, and I just can't even. It's a great way to entertain yourself, to go and just search through the archives, look at the stuff that's there. It's just such a, I don't know, such a bounty. If anybody's watching this who isn't subscribing, I urge you to do it. This to me, the archives alone are easily worth the price of a newspaper subscription. We have deals. This is a great time of year to get a deal on the paper. I'm not sure exactly what our deals are at the moment, but I'm sure somebody can point it out. But you can get a digital only subscription and read the paper every single day online and have access to all these archives. That's incredible. It's just an incredible deal. I mean, not too many years ago, people would have had to pay hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get a digital newspaper archive that was nowhere near as good as this. And it definitely didn't include Lewiston papers, because they weren't there until now. And I guess the one other thing I'd really want to tell you is, if you're reading through these papers sometime and you see things that are really interesting and you don't know anything about them, or you think they'd make a good story, I would love to hear about them. So never hesitate to drop me an email, or give me a call, or send me a message on Twitter or whatever, and tell me what you're finding. I'm really curious. And also, if anybody has any questions about, you're not sure about how to do something, I'm not, I don't know all the details of like how to get your digital, how to get your account up and running. But I can tell you a lot about how to search for something. And if you're having trouble finding something, I'm more than happy to try to spend a few minutes looking, because I've gotten pretty good at finding things, because it's there's an art to it, and it takes time to sort of figure out, like, what's the right word to look for, how do you narrow the time frame, but once you get it down, it's like, wow, this is a gold mine. It's just a gold mine. I think this is it. As the historian in me sees, it's going to change the way we do history in America, because we've never been able to access old papers like this. I mean, they exist, but you just couldn't find them. I mean, I've read a really wonderful book that is largely based on somebody found a stories in a Cincinnati paper from the 1870s, I think, where a former a woman who'd been held as a slave and got freed was tricked into returning back to was tricked and was then hauled back south into slavery again. And after the Civil War, she turned around and filed suit against the slave owner who did that to her. And it's just a marvelous book that tells so much about what happened in those days. It's just a rare picture into life, and it just brings home the horrors of slavery and the trauma of life, and also about the heroism of this woman. I mean, just an absolute hero. And in all that was available because some historian found the stories. I think we're going to see a lot of things like that. It just it uncovers our past in a way that didn't exist before, and I'm just so excited about it. And I can't believe that everybody has the opportunity to do all of this. And I urge you to, it's just add it to the things you do. Occasionally browse through the archives. You'll be astounded at all you find. Okay, I don't know that I have anything else that I deliberately. Let me just look at this little list I made. I think that's pretty much everything I had. If anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to help, but I think that's it. Okay. Last chance. All right. So let me know if you find anything, and thanks for listening to me. So I'll say good night and wish you well and happy holidays to everybody.